My entitled in-laws have sold their house and are now demanding with 2 weeks notice to move into our vacation home for the next 6 months. And now, since I've been showing some resistance to this idea, my in-laws have started to guilt trip us, claiming that they have nowhere else to go, leaving us in a horrible situation. And at this point, I am so frustrated and I seriously don't know what to do. Here's what happened. Okay, let me start off with some background because this is insane. My husband and I have been married for 5 years. We own a beautiful vacation home on the beach that we built ourselves, and we use it throughout the year. My in-laws, who are in their 60s, have always been a welcome guest. They would visit for a few weeks here and there, and they would contribute financially for the cost of maintenance. Well, last month, my in-laws suddenly announced that they were selling their house just so they could downsize and move into a tiny condo. Apparently, they've been secretly harboring this idea for months, never even mentioning it to me or my husband. They plan to close on the sale in 2 weeks, and then, get this, they're gonna move into our vacation home for 6 months until they figure it out. And when I heard this, I was absolutely floored. This house is our sanctuary, not a retirement home extension. We use it frequently, we have friends and family booked to visit throughout the year, and we rely on the income it generates during peak season. My in-laws, on the other hand, haven't lifted a finger on the property themselves and contributed to it only minimally. Now, my husband, bless his heart, is more understanding. He feels bad for his parents and believes that we can make it work. His in-laws, sensing my resistance, are now guilt-tripping us, claiming they have nowhere else to go and offering to pay significantly more than their usual contribution. So honestly, am I the jerk for refusing to let them move in? On one hand, I feel obligated to help family in need, but on the other hand, this feels like an outrageous imposition on our personal space and finances. So honestly, I feel so stuck and I seriously don't know what to do. No, you are definitely not the jerk of the situation. Your in-laws are pieces of garbage for doing this, and they are literally springing this on you all of a sudden out of nowhere, all because they knew if they asked you in advance, you would always say no. So now they're basically saying, oh man, but we have nowhere else to go, you gotta let us in. But it's like, okay, why didn't you plan for that when you were selling your house? How is your stupidity my problem? Like, I would understand if they had nowhere else to go because of like an emergency or some kind of like natural accident or something like that. Like maybe their house flooded or a hurricane came in and took their house out, or some other act of God that has caused their house to be unlivable. In that case, I'd be like, sure, move into the beach house, let's figure it out. But for these people to seriously sell their house and not only not tell you about it, but then come up to you and be like, we're gonna live in your vacation house for 6 months, only to then plan to be upset when you show any kind of resistance, like that is crazy to me and that is so unacceptable. Because I guarantee you, if you let them move into that house, they will never leave. They will always find an excuse not to live by the beach, and they will always find a reason to stay in that house. Like I'm telling you right now, in my opinion, based on the way you're describing these people, this literally will be a horrible nightmare in your life if you don't put your foot down right now. And here's the thing, I understand that your husband is like, oh man, I gotta take care of family, but this is not a situation where family is in need of anything. Like the original poster has even gone on to say that they have looked at this vacation home as a fantastic place to live for some kind of retirement. And if that is not some kind of like big red flag, I don't know what is. So in my opinion, I think you are completely in the right. I think the way your in-laws are acting is very intentional and very calculated, because I guarantee you the second they move into that vacation home, those people are never gonna leave. If you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out, link down below in the description. Also, go to amithejerk.com/submit if you would like to submit your own stories. Am I the jerk for not letting my friend join a plan that he previously rejected? Because right now, I'm kind of feeling guilty, and at this point, I seriously don't know what to do. Here's what happened. So I'm a 22-year-old male, and I made a plan to go to this concert happening in my city. I've never gone to a concert before, but finally, there was a good concert happening soon, and I had money to buy tickets as well. I asked my friends if they wanted to go with me, as this is something I've always wanted to do, but all of them said no for whatever reason they could think of. Now, I asked another group of friends that I have, who aren't my primary group of friends, but I hang out with them quite a bit as well. Most of them said okay, as they also had not been to a concert before, and we all agreed and decided to go. In that second group, however, one of the guys was making excuses like my other friends, making stupid reasons that sounded like he just didn't want to come along, which is something that I experienced with my first group of friends. Now, at this point, I was pretty annoyed at all these guys making stupid excuses, as if they can't just tell me properly that they don't want to come along. So I said to myself, screw it, and I bought tickets with the ones who said yes. Now, a few days later, guys from both my primary group and the other dude from my second group started telling me something like, oh, sorry bro, we didn't realize you actually wanted to go. Why didn't you tell us properly? Can we come now? And by the way, just to be clear here, I asked these guys multiple times, and I was either ignored or given stupid excuses. Now, the concert tickets are mostly booked, and the chances of us getting tickets together wouldn't be possible. And the guy from the second group started telling me that that he really wanted to come along now, and asked me to contact the site and ask if there are any available seats in the same stand that we booked in already. Now, I'm already pretty reluctant because this guy has been annoying me by being so ignorant about this plan, but I decided to contact anyways via mail, and I did so, and apparently there's like one spot left. Now, I could either tell my friend and get him on board, or I could just not tell him about the reply. I normally wouldn't, but that day I decided not to tell him. I felt like these were the consequences of his own actions, and that I shouldn't need to go out of my way to help when he was being such a little jerk about it. Furthermore, if I do help him get the ticket, my other friends from my primary group would find out and could probably start thinking as to why I didn't invite them first and instead invited this other guy. So I decided to tell neither, and I just didn't do anything. So now nobody extra will be coming along, and I'll now be only going with people who wanted to go in the first place. So honestly, does all of this make me a jerk? What should I do? I don't think this makes you the jerk at all. Literally, all your friends are adults. It's not your job to explain that yes, I'm being serious, and yes, I want to go to this concert. Like, from the sounds of it, they're being like super immature and like super weird about it, and so I completely understand you being like, okay, I'm gonna ask another group. Because in my opinion, if you're gonna go to a concert with a group of friends, at least go with a group who actually wants to be there, and not with people who are just gonna make your life miserable the entire time. So in my opinion, I don't think you did anything wrong, and I think that if they really wanted to go to that concert, they would figure it out themselves. My fiance wants to continue splitting bills evenly between us, even though he experienced a significant pay raise, and I'm honestly at this point very frustrated, and I seriously don't know what to do. Here's what happened. Okay, so my fiance and I established an agreement when we moved in together. He handles the rent and I take care of the utilities, and we both take care of our own personal bills. Our bank accounts are separate, but we share a phone plan. He covers his credit card and company vehicle expenses, while I handle my car payment, my insurance, and utilities, as well as groceries and debts. We've been together for 9 years, and our incomes used to be relatively equal, with me working overtime to match his earnings when I had a lower paying job. Over time, our incomes fluctuated due to various circumstances. I worked full-time while attending school, and he experienced a period without a job. Throughout, I've shouldered the majority of household responsibilities, probably 95%, including dinner. Now our careers have stabilized. He secured a higher paying job through a friend's recommendation, with a salary about $10,000 more than his previous one. He worked hard to get subsequent promotions, and his salary ended up being triple mine, with quarterly bonuses factoring into it. Eventually, I also landed a better paying job, and now his income is about 2 times as much as mine. Throughout all of his pay increases, our financial agreement remained unchanged. Recently, during a discussion about wedding expenses, I mentioned my lack of disposable income this paycheck, all due to paying off debt from booking a wedding vendor. I explained the challenges of budgeting for daily expenses with minimal leftover, and how he wouldn't understand, because once he pays rent out of one check, he essentially has the second check, and his bonuses are disposable income. His response shocked me. He said to me, "Find a better job if you can't pull your weight." Now honestly, I feel disrespected, especially considering our history and the fact that I've been there during tough times. I confronted him about what seemed like a shift in his mentality. I thought he had a provider mentality, and the only reason we were 50-50 was because of our respective incomes. I assume he thinks it's not fair to bust his butt to get raises and for me to expect more. He must be feeling sorry, but despite his attempts to be nice since then, buying food and offering gestures, I'm left feeling unsure about our relationship. We are approaching our wedding in 9 months, and I'm contemplating individual therapy just to discuss with someone that doesn't know us. I'm also questioning if this is a red flag for our future. I worry about potential expectations regarding work, as well as childcare responsibilities once we have kids. I do know his mom didn't work growing up, and he has previously told me that his family struggled because of it, so I am a bit empathetic. I don't expect him to take over all of my bills all of the sudden, but if we shared an account, or even if he took over one utility bill, it would take some of the stress off of me. And honestly, right now I'm wondering if I'm overreacting, or if this situation calls for reconsidering the wedding. After 9 years, it's not a simple decision, but I feel like he views our relationship as somewhat transactional, and at this point, I seriously don't know what to do. Honestly, it kind of seems like you need to talk to him and be like, "Hey, I need some help with this. It seems like you have a lot on your plate, and I kind of get the vibe that if he just stepped up to the plate and helped out, things would get easier for you." So in my opinion, talking to him and figuring this out wouldn't be a bad idea, and hopefully when you do, things work out for the best. Am I the jerk for not inviting our homeless sister on a family trip, all because I simply want to break from her as well as her kid? Here's what happened. My husband is very close to his family. His parents are awesome, and we've spent a lot of time with them over the years that we've been together. He is close to his older sister, who for the most part, I've also had a good relationship with. When I got pregnant with my first child, my sister-in-law wanted us to have children together, so she very quickly jumped into a relationship with a man that she met online. Within a year, they had squandered over $200,000 she had received in a settlement on expensive rental homes, a very fancy car, and new wardrobes, as well as a half a dozen or so trips. He also had a significant substance problem, which created a lot of debt. Shortly after I had my first kid, she was pregnant, and our children are about a year apart. Finally, this year, after 3 years, she left her boyfriend with a significant amount of debt, a toddler, as well as nowhere else to go. She moved in with my in-laws until she could find a place to live. It's been over 6 months and she still continues to waste money frivolously, isn't working towards finding a new home, and has been relying on them to provide free full-time care. This is taking a major toll on them and means they are often too tired to spend time with our grandchildren. Both my in-laws and children lament this lost time, but they are kind of stuck until my sister-in-law gets back on her feet. A few months ago, we came into a small amount of money, and most of which we used for home repairs and some for savings. My husband offered to loan his sister first and last for a nice but modest first-floor apartment, but she declined because she wouldn't want to live in a dump and wants a high-end condo instead. But the offer is still on the table if she chooses. Now, last week, my boss offered me some unexpected PTO. My husband suggested that we take our kids on a beach vacation, and I suggested that maybe we could take his parents. They would get a much-needed break, and our kids would get the time together they miss. They were elated and they agreed. Well, my sister-in-law is furious at not being invited and suggested that we use the money we offered her to be used to pay for her trip. But we said no. The thing is, not only do we just want some alone time with my in-laws and kids, but she also has a habit of leaving me with her child for lengthy periods of time while she goes to smoke or do other things. I understand being a mom or single mom is a lot of work, but I'm a mom too, not just a free babysitter. So are we being jerks for dictating what that money is for? What should we do? I do not think you're the jerk at all, because honestly, this is your money. You get to decide what you want to do with it, and no one's going to tell you how to spend it. Also, you're under no obligation to invite her or even pay for her trip. Like, if she wants to dig into her own pockets for once and pay for her own trip, then by all means go for it. But for her to expect you to pay for it all because the money's available, instead of using that money to get a condo or some kind of like one-bedroom apartment, honestly just speaks volumes to the type of person that your sister-in-law really is. And I think you're completely justified to say no and not allow her to come on this trip. My boyfriend's mother was to live with us permanently even after me and my boyfriend get married. And right now, I'm seeing no resistance from my boyfriend with this idea, and I feel very stuck and unsure about what's going to happen, and I now seriously don't know what to do. So me and my boyfriend have known each other since 2018. I'm 25 years old and he is 28 years old. We've been in a relationship since the past 4 years, and I moved to Canada from India around 1.5 years ago, and he moved around 2 years ago. Our relationship has been ideal. We both love each other, we travel, we have fun. I do see my future with him, and I want to get married to him in the next 1 to 2 years, and he wants to as well. Now, there are a couple of issues that we are facing. His dad passed away when he was in college because of an accident, and he doesn't have any siblings. It is just him and his mom. His mom used to work, but left her office because she wanted to move to Canada just so she could live with him permanently. Now, my boyfriend used to think that I will live with him and his mother at his house after our marriage, but I made him understand around 2 years ago that I like being independent and I like my privacy, and I don't see myself living with his mother permanently all my life. I know how important his mother is to him, so I propose that when we get married, we move to a different house that is nearby to his mother so he can still look after her while we have our own life and our own privacy. He liked the idea and understood where I was coming from. Well, his mother came to Canada on a super visa 10 days ago, and it hasn't been very good. They had the marriage conversation, and apparently she doesn't like me and my family. We are both from very different religions, and she absolutely hates the idea of living in a different house than my boyfriend after marriage. Even though my boyfriend moved out of their house in India after the 12th grade, and they both have been living alone in India, meeting on weekends and holidays. She thinks that my boyfriend is throwing her away and doesn't care about her. My boyfriend and I also have plans to move to the United States later on. Also, we can have better software engineering opportunities. When he told her that even if she lives with him now, she can't move to the US permanently because of visa issues, and that she can only live 6 months at a time. Well, she told him to let go of the USA plans and to stay in Canada with her. So now I don't know what to do. I don't get why living in a different house sounds so bad to her. It will be the same city, probably like 10 to 15 minutes away at max, and I don't even mind if she is living with us for the whole 6 months of the United States, or even if she lives for some months with us in Canada. I'm not trying to be insensitive, but I just don't see myself living with him and his mother forever. But I also don't want this to be the end of our relationship. We both love each other too much, and my boyfriend is not the issue. He understands where I'm coming from and wants to do the right thing. He gets that we will be more happy living alone on our own, but doesn't want to throw away his mother. So honestly, I'm at such a loss, and I seriously seriously don't know what to do. Honestly, I know you say that your boyfriend is not the issue, but in my opinion, he absolutely is. First of all, you're not crazy for not wanting to live with your mother-in-law for the rest of your life. Like, that seems like a pretty reasonable reaction in my opinion, and I know if I was in your shoes, I would feel the exact same way. It's not you're throwing them away or you don't care about them. Like, of course you do. That's not part of the equation in this instance. Instead of this being a situation where you don't like the mother-in-law and you don't want her around, in my opinion, this is more of a situation about privacy than anything else. If I was gonna get married to my partner and I knew this was part of the package deal, where he would be expecting his mom to live with us even after we get married, I would definitely be very hesitant in moving forward. No, I'm not saying that you shouldn't marry him, but I do think it's important to consider what's actually happening right now. Because in my opinion, if you don't put your foot down now, then this is going to spiral out of control in a way that you really don't want to deal with. And I really think that that line in the sand really needs to come from your boyfriend and not from you. You can certainly voice your opinion, but at the end of the day, this is your boyfriend's mom, and he really needs to be the one to say, no, you can't live with us. Because honestly, this sounds like an awful thing to let slide in your relationship, and I just know that I would not be happy if I decided to go this route. Am I the jerk for telling my sister that she is the last person I would ever want my wife to be like as a parent? Because right now she is getting on my last nerve, and at this point I seriously don't know what to do. My sister's 8 years older than me, and she has 5 kids while my wife and I only have 1 kid so far. I don't have the best relationship with my sister, and we don't interact all that often. At best, we might see each other 5 times a year, and our number of interactions vary. The reason I feel this way about my sister is that she has a huge superiority complex, and she also likes to roll over other people. She's been like that since we were kids, and being so much older than me, she always felt like she could tell me what to do, or that I had to emulate her. It used to bother her so much that we were nothing alike. Things got so much worse after my wife and I became parents. My sister has never actually wanted her kids to know me that well, and she kept them away for the most part, and even if we were around each other, she kept them very close to her. She said it was because I was too disrespectful of her. Despite this, she feels that she has the right to try and pressure my wife and I to parent her way. My wife quit breastfeeding after it started to impact her mental health, and I was so glad. I remember our parents were so worried about my sister with her oldest too, because she was driving herself to the brink by forcing it when she struggled. One of our parents used to stay the night when her husband was working nights because they were so worried about her. She even threatened to sue our parents and her doctor over the suggestion of introducing formula. She accused them of trying to make her a bad mother, and this is despite the fact that she ignores her other kids when she's like that. Now, I never wanted my wife to end up like that, so I was happy when she put her mental health first. My sister tried to shame her, but I quickly stepped in and I put a stop to her. I even talked over her until she quit opening her mouth, and that honestly took several minutes just to do. This was at our parents' house, and she tried to approach my wife afterwards, but my wife simply walked away. Once I heard my sister spewing more garbage, I told my parents that we needed to leave, but they actually made her leave instead. My sister tried to get in touch with my wife via social media, but they aren't social media friends, and my wife has DMs set to private. We then saw each other at Christmas, and this time she started in on us for cuddling our child too much, and because our child is almost 1 year old, she felt that it was too big to be constantly giving affection to. She didn't get to say everything because I stopped her again, and our parents told her to leave if she couldn't behave. Well, she hated being shut out, so she approached me and told me she is trying to help my wife be a better mom and to be more like her. She told me she's the best kind of example for my wife to follow, but I told her I pitied her if she actually thought that was true, because she is the last person that I would want my wife to emulate as a parent. Well, as you might be able to guess, my sister freaked out and I walked away from her, but she showed up several more times calling me disrespectful and saying that I have always treated her like garbage. So honestly, am I the jerk in this situation? What should I do? No, you are definitely not the jerk. Your sister is incredibly intrusive, and she really does come off as very narcissistic. Like she's trying to tell you and your wife how to manage your child. Meanwhile, she's trying to act like this perfect example of how to be a mother. And it's like, what were you talking about? That is definitely not true. So good for you for putting your foot down, because this behavior has seriously gone on long enough, and the way your sister was acting is completely inappropriate. When you subscribe, make sure to hit the bell to turn on notifications. To finish listening to all the stories, check out the playlists at the top of the description. And if you want some chill music to put on in the background, check out easymode.com. If you like Am I the Jerk, subscribe to Am I the Genius. Everything will be linked down below in the description.